The morning sun cast a golden glow across Buckingham Palace as the household staff prepared for one of the most significant events in the royal calendar. Trooping the color, the official celebration of the monarch's birthday, would unfold in just a few hours, and the entire royal family was expected to participate in this grand display of tradition and pageantry. In the private quarters of the Prince and Princess of Wales, however, a different kind of preparation was taking place. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, sat at her dressing table, her reflection revealing a mixture of anticipation and underlying concern. The past few months had been challenging, filled with health struggles that had kept her away from many public engagements. The media had speculated endlessly about her absence, creating a whirlwind of rumors and concerns that had only added to the pressure she felt. Today marked her return to public life, and the weight of expectation felt heavier than the elaborate hat she would soon wear. 9-year-old Princess Charlotte bounced into her mother's room with characteristic energy, her school uniform replaced by a beautiful navy dress that had been specially selected for the occasion. Her bright eyes immediately noticed the subtle tension in her mother's posture, the way Catherine's hands trembled slightly as she applied her makeup. Children have an innate ability to sense when something is amiss with their parents, and Charlotte possessed this sensitivity in abundance. "Mummy, are you nervous about today?" Charlotte asked, settling herself on the edge of the bed, her legs swinging freely. Her voice carried the innocent directness that only children possess, cutting through any pretense or adult complexity. Catherine turned from her mirror, offering her daughter a gentle smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "A little bit, darling. It's been a while since I've been to such a big event. There will be so many people watching, and I want to make sure everything goes perfectly." Charlotte studied her mother's face with the intensity of someone much older than her years. She had inherited her mother's empathetic nature and her father's determination, creating a unique combination of emotional intelligence and fierce loyalty. The little princess understood, perhaps better than many adults realized, the pressure her parents faced and the sacrifices they made for their royal duties. "You always look beautiful, Mummy," Charlotte said simply, but her words carried a weight of sincerity that touched Catherine's heart. "And you're the kindest person I know. Everyone loves you because you're you, not because you're perfect." The wisdom in her daughter's words surprised Catherine, reminding her why children often serve as the best teachers. In Charlotte's simple statement lay a profound truth about authenticity and the difference between being perfect and being genuine. The Princess of Wales had always prided herself on connecting with people on a human level, and perhaps that was exactly what she needed to remember today. Meanwhile, Prince William was in his study, reviewing the schedule for the day with his private secretary. The military precision required for trooping the color meant that every minute was accounted for, every movement choreographed. As the heir to the throne, William had participated in this ceremony countless times, but today felt different. He was acutely aware of the significance of Catherine's return and the public's eagerness to see her again. Prince George, at 11 years old, was already displaying the serious demeanor that would serve him well in his future role. He understood the importance of royal duty and carried himself with a maturity that sometimes made his parents forget how young he really was. Today, he had taken extra care with his appearance, wanting to support his mother by ensuring he looked appropriately regal for the cameras. 5-year-old Prince Louis, the youngest of the Wales children, approached the day with the boundless enthusiasm typical of his age. He had been practicing his royal wave in the mirror and asking endless questions about the horses, the music, and why everyone would be watching them. His innocence served as a reminder of the joy that could be found in royal traditions when viewed through the eyes of a child. The household staff moved with practiced efficiency, ensuring that every detail was perfect. Catherine's lady-in-waiting had laid out her outfit with meticulous care, a stunning white coat dress by a British designer, chosen both for its elegance and its symbolic representation of new beginnings. The ensemble was completed with a matching hat that would photograph beautifully against the backdrop of the ceremony. As the family prepared to depart for Horse Guards Parade, Charlotte made a decision that would prove to be the most significant moment of the day. She had been thinking about her mother's nervousness and wanted to find a way to show her support. In her young mind, she understood that sometimes the most powerful gestures are the smallest ones, the quiet acts of love that speak louder than grand declarations. The car journey to Horse Guards Parade provided a brief moment of family intimacy before the public spectacle began. Catherine sat between Charlotte and Louis, with George positioned across from them next to his father. The children chatted excitedly about what they expected to see, their enthusiasm helping to lighten the mood and ease some of Catherine's nervous energy. "Mummy," Charlotte said quietly, leaning close so only her mother could hear. "I have an idea for today. Something special just for you." Catherine raised an eyebrow curiously, but Charlotte simply smiled mysteriously and settled back into her seat. The little princess had learned the value of surprises from watching her parents plan special moments for each other and for their children. She understood that the anticipation of a surprise could be almost as meaningful as the surprise itself. As their convoy approached Horse Guards Parade, the sounds of the gathering crowd became audible. Thousands of people had lined the streets, many arriving before dawn to secure the best viewing positions. The red tunics of the household guards created a sea of color, while the brass instruments of the military bands gleamed in the morning sunlight. The pageantry of trooping the color represents centuries of British tradition, a living link between past and present that continues to captivate audiences around the world. The family's arrival was met with cheers from the crowd, cameras flashing from every direction as photographers captured their first public images of Catherine in months. The Princess of Wales stepped from the car with the grace and poise that had made her a beloved figure, but those who knew her well could detect the slight nervousness in her smile, the way she took a moment longer than usual to gather herself. Charlotte emerged from the car and immediately positioned herself close to her mother, a protective instinct that belied her young age. She had observed how the media attention sometimes overwhelmed her parents, and she wanted to provide whatever support she could. The sight of the young princess staying close to her mother would later be noted by royal watchers as a touching display of family solidarity. The royal family made their way to their positions for the ceremony, each step choreographed and purposeful. Catherine's return had generated significant media coverage, with commentators analyzing every aspect of her appearance and demeanor. The pressure of such scrutiny could be overwhelming, but the presence of her children served as a grounding force, reminding her of what truly mattered. Prince William walked slightly ahead, his military uniform perfectly fitted and his bearing confident. He had served in the military himself and understood the significance of the ceremony beyond its role as a royal obligation. For him, trooping the color represented the dedication and sacrifice of service members, making it one of the more meaningful events in the royal calendar. As the ceremony began, the precision of the military display was breathtaking. The household guards moved in perfect synchronization, their movements honed through countless hours of practice. The music filled the air, creating an atmosphere of grandeur and tradition that never failed to stir emotions, even among those who had witnessed it many times before. Charlotte watched the proceedings with fascination, but her attention kept returning to her mother. She noticed how Catherine's hands were clasped tightly together, how she occasionally took slightly deeper breaths, small signs of nerves that others might miss, but that a daughter's loving eye would inevitably catch. The little princess began formulating her plan, thinking through exactly how and when she would execute her gesture of support. The crowd's enthusiasm was palpable, with many people calling out words of encouragement and welcome to Catherine. Their genuine affection and concern were evident, creating an atmosphere of warmth that began to ease some of the princess's tension. The British public had always shown remarkable loyalty to the royal family during difficult times, and today was no exception. As the ceremony progressed, Charlotte's anticipation grew. She had been waiting for the perfect moment, and she could sense that it was approaching. Her gesture needed to be natural and spontaneous, something that would appear effortless but would carry deep meaning for her mother. The timing would be crucial, requiring her to read the moment and act with the intuition that children often possess in abundance. The military band struck up another tune, the melody soaring across Horse Guards Parade and beyond, reaching the thousands of spectators who had gathered to witness this celebration of tradition and monarchy. The sound seemed to lift Catherine's spirits, reminding her of the joy and pride that could be found in these ceremonial moments, despite the pressure they might entail. Charlotte watched as her mother's expression gradually relaxed, the tension in her shoulders beginning to ease as she became absorbed in the spectacle before them. This was exactly what the little princess had been waiting for, the moment when her mother was beginning to feel more comfortable but could still benefit from a reminder of her family's unwavering support. The stage was set for a gesture that would capture hearts around the world, a simple act of love between a daughter and her mother that would transcend the grandeur of the ceremony itself. In the midst of military precision and royal protocol, The most meaningful moment of the day would come not from the official proceedings, but from the spontaneous expression of a child's devotion to her parent. The ceremony continued with its time-honored precision, each element unfolding according to centuries-old traditions that had been refined and perfected through generations of royal celebrations. The household cavalry, resplendent in their ceremonial uniforms, maintained their positions with military discipline while the regimental bands filled the air with stirring martial music. Against this backdrop of formal pageantry, a very different kind of story was developing within the royal box. Princess Charlotte had been observing her mother with the acute awareness that children often possess when someone they love is experiencing uncertainty. Throughout her young life, Charlotte had witnessed her parents navigate the complex demands of royal duty while maintaining their roles as devoted mother and father. She had learned to read the subtle signs of stress and had developed an intuitive understanding of when her parents needed extra support. Catherine stood with practiced poise, her white coat dress catching the morning light beautifully as she watched the military display unfold before them. To the thousands of spectators and millions watching on television around the world, she appeared every inch the confident royal, her return to public life marked by the same grace and elegance that had defined her public persona for over a decade. However, Charlotte's experienced I caught the small tells that others might miss. The way her mother's breathing was slightly more controlled than usual, the almost imperceptible tension in her jaw, and the manner in which she occasionally adjusted her position as if seeking greater comfort. The young princess had been formulating her plan throughout the early stages of the ceremony, waiting for the precise moment when her gesture would have maximum impact while appearing completely natural. She understood instinctively that the most meaningful displays of support often come in the form of subtle actions rather than grand gestures, and she wanted her expression of love to feel authentic rather than performative. Prince William, standing slightly to Catherine's left in his military dress uniform, occasionally glanced toward his wife with a mixture of pride and protective concern. He had been her closest support throughout the challenging months that had preceded this public return, and he understood better than anyone the courage it had taken for her to step back into the spotlight. His own military training had taught him the value of quiet strength and steady presence, qualities he now employed to provide an anchor of stability for his family. Prince George, despite his young age, had already begun to understand the weight of public expectation that came with his position in the line of succession. He stood with remarkable composure for an 11-year-old, his attention focused on the ceremony, while remaining aware of the cameras that captured every moment of their family's participation in this historic event. His maturity in these situations often amazed his parents, though they remained mindful of ensuring he could still enjoy the simple pleasures of childhood. Prince Louis, true to his spirited nature, watched the proceedings with wide-eyed fascination, occasionally pointing out details that caught his attention or whispering questions to whoever was closest. His genuine enthusiasm for the spectacle served as a reminder of the wonder that these traditions could inspire when viewed through the eyes of someone experiencing them for the first time. His presence brought a lightness to the family group that helped balance the more serious aspects of their public role. The crowds lining the route and filling the viewing areas had been eagerly anticipating Catherine's appearance, and their warm reception had been immediate and heartfelt. Signs of support and welcome were visible throughout the gathering, with many spectators wearing colors that complemented the patriotic theme of the day. The genuine affection of the British public had always been one of the most meaningful aspects of royal life for Catherine, and today that warmth was particularly palpable. As the ceremony reached one of its crescendo moments, with the full military band playing the national anthem, Charlotte noticed her mother's emotional response to the music and the occasion. Catherine had always been moved by displays of national pride and military honor, and returning to such a significant event after her absence clearly held special meaning for her. It was at this moment of heightened emotion that Charlotte recognized her opportunity. Without any hesitation or self-consciousness, Princess Charlotte reached out and gently took her mother's hand. The gesture was so natural and spontaneous that it appeared completely unplanned, yet it was perfectly timed to provide exactly the kind of support that Catherine needed in that moment. The simple act of her daughter's hand slipping into her own provided an immediate sense of comfort and connection that transcended the formal atmosphere of the ceremony. Catherine looked down at their joined hands with surprise and deep emotion, her eyes meeting Charlotte's for a brief moment that communicated volumes about the bond between them. In that instant, The Princess of Wales was reminded that despite all the protocol and public attention, she was first and foremost a mother, and that her children's love provided the strongest foundation for everything else she did in her public role. The photographers present were quick to capture this tender moment, though they could hardly have anticipated how powerfully it would resonate with audiences around the world. The image of Princess Charlotte's small hand holding her mother's during such a significant moment would become one of the defining photographs of the event, symbolizing not just family love, but the next generation's instinctive support for the institution of monarchy. Charlotte maintained her hold on her mother's hand throughout the remainder of the ceremony, occasionally offering gentle squeezes of encouragement during particularly significant moments. Her actions demonstrated a remarkable maturity and emotional intelligence, showing that she understood both her mother's needs and the appropriate way to provide support within the context of a formal royal event. The crowd's reaction to this display of family affection was immediate and overwhelmingly positive. Many spectators who witnessed the moment felt their hearts touched by the genuine nature of the interaction, and the sight of the young princess supporting her mother resonated with parents and children throughout the audience. It served as a reminder that beneath the grandeur and formality of royal life, the Wales family remained fundamentally grounded in the same love and mutual support that defines any healthy family unit. Prince William noticed his daughter's gesture and felt a surge of pride in Charlotte's intuitive compassion. He had always been impressed by his children's ability to understand and respond to emotional situations with wisdom beyond their years. But Charlotte's action today demonstrated a particularly sophisticated understanding of when and how to offer support. Her natural empathy and consideration for others had been evident from an early age, but seeing it displayed in such a public setting filled him with admiration for the young woman she was becoming. The military bands continued their performance, the music swelling to fill every corner of Horse Guards Parade and beyond. The sound seemed to lift the spirits of everyone present, creating an atmosphere of celebration and national pride that made Catherine's return feel like a true homecoming. The combination of the stirring music, the enthusiastic crowd, and her daughter's loving support created a moment of pure emotion that reminded her why she had always found these public events so meaningful. As the ceremony progressed toward its conclusion, Charlotte's continued presence at her mother's side provided a steady source of comfort and strength. The young princess had managed to offer her support in a way that enhanced rather than distracted from the formal proceedings, demonstrating an instinctive understanding of royal protocol while never losing sight of her primary concern for her mother's well-being. The sight of the royal family standing together, with Charlotte's hand still clasped in her mother's, created a powerful image of unity and mutual support that would be remembered long after the specific details of the ceremony itself had faded from memory. In a world often dominated by division and conflict, the simple picture of a daughter supporting her mother during a moment of public pressure offered a refreshing example of unconditional love and family loyalty. Catherine found herself drawing strength not just from Charlotte's physical presence, but from the reminder her daughter's gesture provided about what truly mattered in life. The months of health challenges and public absence had given her time to reflect on her priorities, and Charlotte's intuitive support confirmed that her family's love and well-being would always be her greatest source of motivation and purpose. The cameras continued to capture every moment of the royal family's participation in the ceremony, but it was the candid shots of Charlotte and Catherine's interaction that would prove most memorable. These images would be shared countless times on social media and featured prominently in news coverage around the world, touching hearts and inspiring discussions about the importance of family support during difficult times. As the formal elements of Trooping the Color drew toward their conclusion, the crowd's appreciation for the ceremony and for the royal family's participation was evident in their sustained applause and cheering. The day had been a complete success from every perspective, but, for Catherine, the most meaningful aspect had been her daughter's spontaneous gesture of love and support. It had transformed what could have been a nerve-wracking return to public life into a celebration of family bonds and mutual devotion. The final elements of the Trooping the Color ceremony unfolded with the same meticulous precision that had characterized the entire event, but, for the Wales family, the atmosphere had been fundamentally transformed by Princess Charlotte's tender gesture. As the military bands prepared for their concluding performance, and the household guards began their final maneuvers, Catherine felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over her, not just for the warm welcome from the public, but for the unexpected reminder of what truly sustained her through life's challenges. Charlotte maintained her gentle hold on her mother's hand, occasionally looking up at Catherine with a knowing smile that seemed to communicate far more than words could express. The 9-year-old princess had accomplished exactly what she had set out to do, providing comfort and support at precisely the moment when it was most needed. Her action had been both spontaneous and perfectly considered, demonstrating the kind of emotional intelligence that suggested she would one day bring great compassion to her own royal duties. The crowd's energy had reached a crescendo as the ceremony approached its traditional conclusion, with thousands of voices joining together in enthusiastic appreciation for the spectacle they had witnessed. The sea of faces extending in every direction from Horse Guard's parade represented not just curiosity about royal pageantry, but genuine affection for the family that had shared this moment with them. Many spectators had brought cameras and phones to capture memories of the day, but none of their photographs could fully convey the warmth and emotion that had characterized Catherine's return to public life. Prince William stood with quiet pride as he observed his wife's renewed confidence and his daughter's instinctive compassion. The months of uncertainty and health concerns that had preceded this day had tested the family's resilience in ways that few people could fully understand. The pressure of public life, combined with personal challenges, had created a situation that required both individual strength and collective support. Watching Charlotte provide exactly the kind of encouragement that Catherine needed reminded him once again of the remarkable children they were raising together. Prince George had observed his younger sister's gesture with the kind of thoughtful attention that was becoming characteristic of his developing personality. At 11 years old, he was beginning to understand the complexities of their family's public role and the ways in which they could support each other through difficult moments. Charlotte's action provided him with a powerful example of how small gestures could have profound impact, a lesson that would undoubtedly serve him well in his future position. Prince Louis, while perhaps too young to fully grasp the emotional significance of his sister's gesture, had certainly noticed the change in atmosphere that followed it. His mother's increased relaxation and obvious happiness had made the entire experience more enjoyable for him, allowing him to focus on the excitement of the military display and the festive atmosphere of the celebration. His innocent enthusiasm continued to provide a counterbalance to the more serious aspects of the occasion. The military precision that defined every aspect of Trooping the Color continued without pause, but those watching the royal family closely could observe how the dynamic within their group had evolved throughout the ceremony. Where there had initially been underlying tension and nervous energy, there was now a sense of calm confidence and genuine enjoyment. Catherine's posture had relaxed, her smile had become more natural, and her engagement with the proceedings had deepened considerably. As the ceremony transitioned toward its final phase, Charlotte's grip on her mother's hand remained steady but gentle, a constant reminder of love and support that required no words or grand gestures. The simplicity of the action was part of its power. In a setting dominated by elaborate uniforms, complex choreography, and formal protocol, the most meaningful moment had come from a child's instinctive desire to comfort her mother. The photographers and television cameras that documented every moment of the royal family's participation captured numerous images of Charlotte and Catherine together, but the technical aspects of these shots could hardly convey the emotional depth of what they had witnessed. The bond between mother and daughter was evident in every frame, creating a visual narrative that would resonate with families around the world who understood the power of unconditional love and mutual support. Members of the extended royal family who were present for the ceremony had also taken note of Charlotte's gesture, recognizing it as an example of the strong family values that had been instilled in the Wales children. The young princess had demonstrated not only personal compassion, but also an understanding of how to provide support within the unique context of royal life, where private emotions must often be managed within very public settings. The crowd's response to the visible affection between Catherine and Charlotte had been overwhelmingly positive, with many spectators commenting on how touching it was to witness such a genuine display of family love during a formal state occasion. The sight had reminded many people of their own family relationships and the importance of being there for each other during challenging times. In an age often characterized by cynicism and division, the simple image of a daughter supporting her mother had provided a moment of pure emotional connection that transcended cultural and social boundaries. As the final musical selections began, Catherine found herself fully absorbed in the grandeur of the ceremony, while remaining acutely aware of her daughter's continued presence beside her. The combination of public celebration and private support had created an experience that she would treasure for years to come. The courage required to return to public life after months of health challenges had been considerable, but Charlotte's gesture had transformed anxiety into gratitude and uncertainty into renewed purpose. The military band struck up the final anthem, their instruments gleaming in the afternoon sunlight as the music soared across the parade ground and beyond. The sound seemed to encapsulate everything that made Trooping the Colors such a significant event: the honor of military service, the continuity of tradition, the celebration of national identity, and the enduring strength of the institutions that had guided Britain through centuries of change and challenge. Charlotte looked up at her mother during this climactic moment, her young face reflecting both pride in Catherine's return and satisfaction at having provided the support she had intended. The princess had learned from watching her parents that love is often expressed most powerfully through actions rather than words, and today she had put that understanding into practice in the most public setting imaginable. The ceremony's conclusion was marked by the traditional gun salute, the sound reverberating across London and serving as a reminder of the historical significance of the event. For Catherine, however, the most important sounds of the day had been much quieter: the whispered words of encouragement from Charlotte, the gentle rustle of her dress as she moved closer to provide support, and the barely audible intake of breath that had marked the moment when her daughter's hand had slipped into her own. As the formal proceedings drew to a close and the royal family prepared to acknowledge the crowd's appreciation, Charlotte finally released her mother's hand, but not before giving it one final gentle squeeze. The gesture was so subtle that few people beyond their immediate family noticed it, but for Catherine, it served as a perfect conclusion to a moment of connection that had transformed her entire experience of the day. The crowd sustained applause, and cheering created a fitting finale to an event that had exceeded everyone's expectations. What had begun as Catherine's return to public life after a period of health challenges had evolved into a celebration of family love, personal courage, and the enduring appeal of traditions that connect past and present. The formal elements of Trooping the Color had been executed with their usual precision and grandeur, but the most memorable aspect of the day had been the spontaneous display of affection between a mother and daughter. As they prepared to leave Horse Guards Parade, Catherine bent down to whisper something in Charlotte's ear, her words inaudible to anyone else, but clearly meaningful to both of them. The princess nodded seriously and then broke into the kind of delighted smile that only children can produce, her face radiating happiness at having successfully provided the support her mother needed. The exchange represented the perfect conclusion to a gesture that had begun with intuitive compassion and had grown into something much larger, a symbol of family strength, generational support, and the power of love to overcome any challenge. The journey back to Buckingham Palace provided the Wales family with their first opportunity to reflect privately on the extraordinary events of the day. As their official car wound through the streets of London, still lined with enthusiastic crowds who continued to wave and cheer despite the ceremony's conclusion, Catherine felt a profound sense of accomplishment and gratitude that went far beyond the successful completion of her return to public duties. Princess Charlotte sat quietly beside her mother, occasionally glancing out the window at the celebrating crowds, but more often studying Catherine's face with the satisfied expression of someone who had accomplished exactly what they had set out to do. The 9-year-old princess had demonstrated remarkable maturity and emotional intelligence throughout the day, but now she simply appeared content to be a child again, basking in the warmth of her family's appreciation for her thoughtful gesture. Prince William reached across to squeeze his wife's free hand, his eyes conveying both pride in her courage and amazement at their daughter's intuitive understanding of what had been needed. As a father, he had always been impressed by his children's capacity for empathy and compassion, but Charlotte's action today had exceeded even his highest expectations. The gesture had been perfectly timed, completely natural, and profoundly effective in providing exactly the kind of support that Catherine had needed most. The car's interior provided a temporary sanctuary from the public attention that had defined every moment since they had left Buckingham Palace that morning. Here, surrounded by family and away from the cameras and crowds, they could begin to process what had transpired during one of the most emotionally significant royal events in recent memory. The formal elements of Trooping the Color had been executed flawlessly, but it was the spontaneous moments of human connection that would be remembered most vividly. Prince George, who had maintained his characteristic composure throughout the public ceremony, now allowed himself to express his genuine excitement about the day's events. His questions about the military displays and his observations about the crowd's enthusiasm revealed the curious and engaged young person beneath his formal public demeanor. For him, today had provided valuable insights into the positive aspects of royal duty and the genuine affection that the British public held for their family. Prince Louis, finally, able to release some of the energy he had contained during the formal ceremony, bounced excitedly in his seat as he recounted his favorite moments from the day. His enthusiasm was infectious, filling the car with laughter and lightening the emotional intensity that had characterized much of the morning. His presence served as a reminder that despite the weight of their public responsibilities, they remained a family that prioritized joy and togetherness above all else. Catherine found herself repeatedly returning to the memory of Charlotte's gentle gesture, marveling at how such a simple action had transformed her entire experience of the day. The months of health challenges and public absence had created a level of anxiety about returning to royal duties that she had struggled to fully acknowledge, even to herself. Charlotte's instinctive support had provided not just emotional comfort, but a powerful reminder of the love and strength that surrounded her in every aspect of her life. As they approached Buckingham Palace, the family could see that the celebrations were continuing throughout London. The traditional flyover by the Royal Air Force had created trails of red, white, and blue across the sky, while the crowds that had gathered outside the palace gates showed no signs of dispersing despite the afternoon heat. The enthusiasm and joy of the British public had created an atmosphere of genuine celebration that extended far beyond the formal boundaries of the ceremony itself. The palace staff who greeted their return were clearly moved by what they had witnessed through television coverage of the event. Many of them had worked with the royal family for years and had developed deep personal affection for Catherine and her children. Seeing Princess Charlotte's gesture of support had touched their hearts as profoundly as it had affected viewers around the world, confirming their belief in the genuine warmth and compassion that characterized the Wales family. Private secretary meetings and debriefing sessions that typically followed major royal events were postponed as the family chose instead to spend the remainder of the afternoon together, processing the day's events and simply enjoying each other's company. The formal requirements of royal life would resume soon enough, but this moment belonged to them as a family, free from protocol and public scrutiny. Charlotte's gesture had already begun to generate significant media attention and social media discussion, with commentators and royal watchers noting the profound impact of her simple act of support. The image of her hand in her mother's had been shared thousands of times across various platforms, accompanied by messages of appreciation for the family's genuine displays of affection and mutual support. The reaction confirmed what many had long suspected, that in an increasingly complex world, people were hungry for authentic moments of human connection and love. The conversation during their private family time inevitably returned to Charlotte's gesture and its significance. Catherine expressed her gratitude to her daughter not just for the comfort she had provided, but for the wisdom she had shown in understanding when and how to offer that support. Charlotte herself seemed somewhat surprised by the level of attention her gesture had received, though she was clearly pleased by her parents' appreciation. For her, the action had been entirely natural and unplanned, simply a response to her perception that her mother needed support. The fact that it had been captured by photographers and had resonated with people around the world was less important to her than the knowledge that she had been able to help her mother during a challenging moment. The afternoon provided an opportunity for the family to review some of the media coverage of the event, allowing them to see themselves as the public had experienced them. The photographs of Charlotte and Catherine together were indeed as powerful as they had sensed they might be, capturing not just a moment in time, but the enduring strength of their relationship. The images would undoubtedly become part of the historical record of Catherine's return to public life. But, more importantly, they represented a genuine expression of love that would be treasured within their family for years to come. As evening approached, and the excitement of the day began to settle into cherished memory, the Wales family gathered for a quiet dinner together. The conversation flowed easily between recollections of the ceremony's highlights, discussions of the public's warm reception, and expressions of gratitude for the support they had shown each other throughout the day. Charlotte's gesture had become a central part of their shared memory of the event, representing the best of what they could offer each other and the world. The day had proven that even within the formal constraints of royal protocol and public ceremony, there was room for genuine emotion and authentic human connection. Princess Charlotte's tender gesture had not only supported her mother during a moment of vulnerability, but had also provided the world with a powerful reminder of the importance of family love and the ways in which the simplest actions can have the most profound impact. As they prepared for the evening and reflected on the day's extraordinary events, each member of the Wales family carried with them a renewed appreciation for the bonds that held them together and the strength they could draw from each other during both challenging and triumphant times. Charlotte's gesture had become more than just a moment of support. It had become a symbol of the love that defined their family and would continue to guide them through whatever challenges and opportunities lay ahead. In the weeks that followed Trooping the Color, the impact of Princess Charlotte's tender gesture continued to resonate far beyond the immediate family circle, creating ripples of inspiration and discussion that extended across continents and cultures. The photograph of the young princess holding her mother's hand had become one of the most widely shared and beloved royal images in recent memory, touching hearts and sparking conversations about the importance of family support, childhood empathy, and the human side of royal duty. Catherine found herself returning to that moment frequently in quiet reflections, understanding more clearly with each passing day how profoundly her daughter's gesture had affected not just her experience of that particular event, but her entire approach to public life going forward. The months of health challenges and public absence had created a period of uncertainty and introspection that had ultimately led to a deeper appreciation for the relationships and experiences that truly mattered in her life. The Princess of Wales had always prided herself on connecting with people on a genuine human level during her public engagements. But Charlotte's example had reminded her that authenticity often comes through vulnerability and the willingness to accept support when it is offered. The lesson had applications that extended far beyond royal duties, influencing her interactions with friends, family members, and the countless individuals she encountered in her charitable work. Princess Charlotte herself had initially been somewhat puzzled by the continued attention her gesture had received, but as she began to understand the broader impact of her actions, she developed a deeper appreciation for the ways in which small kindnesses could spread far beyond their immediate recipients. Her teachers at school had noticed an increased confidence in her interactions with classmates who seemed to be struggling, and her parents observed her demonstrating greater awareness of others' emotional needs in family situations. The young princess had always possessed natural empathy and compassion, qualities that had been carefully nurtured by both her parents and the dedicated staff who helped raise the Wales children. However, the experience of providing meaningful support during such a significant public moment had given her a new understanding of her own capacity to make a positive difference in others' lives. This realization would prove influential in shaping her developing sense of purpose and her future approach to royal responsibilities. Prince William had watched with great pride as the public response to Charlotte's gesture confirmed his belief in the positive impact that authentic displays of family love could have on society as a whole. As someone who had grown up in the public eye and understood both the privileges and pressures of royal life, he was particularly gratified to see his daughter demonstrating the kind of emotional intelligence and natural compassion that would serve her well throughout her life. The Duke of Cambridge had always hoped that his children would develop strong characters and caring hearts, but witnessing Charlotte's instinctive response to her mother's needs had exceeded his proudest expectations. The gesture had revealed not just her individual capacity for empathy, but the strength of the family bonds that he and Catherine had worked so hard to nurture despite the unique challenges of their public roles. Prince George had been deeply affected by his sister's example, leading to conversations within the family about the different ways they could support each other and the people around them. The 11-year-old prince had begun to understand more clearly how his future role would involve not just ceremonial duties and public appearances, but opportunities to provide comfort and encouragement to others. Charlotte's gesture had provided him with a powerful model of how leadership could be expressed through compassion rather than authority. Prince Louis, while still too young to fully grasp all the implications of his sister's actions, had certainly absorbed the lesson that family members should be attentive to each other's needs and ready to offer help whenever possible. His own naturally affectionate personality had been further encouraged by witnessing the positive impact of Charlotte's supportive gesture, leading to increased displays of kindness and consideration within the family dynamic. The broader royal family had also taken note of the profound impact of Charlotte's action, recognizing it as an example of the values and character traits that had always been considered essential for those in positions of public responsibility. Senior family members had expressed their admiration for the young princess's intuitive understanding of when and how to provide support, seeing in her gesture a reflection of the compassionate leadership that had characterized the best traditions of the monarchy throughout its long history. International media coverage had focused extensively on the warmth and authenticity of the family's interactions during Trooping the Color, with royal correspondents from around the world noting how Charlotte's gesture had humanized what could otherwise have been perceived as a purely formal ceremonial event. The contrast between the elaborate military pageantry and the simple act of a daughter supporting her mother had created a compelling narrative that resonated with audiences regardless of their feelings about monarchy as an institution. Social media platforms had been flooded with messages from parents sharing their own experiences of receiving unexpected support from their children during difficult moments. The image of Charlotte and Catherine had prompted countless stories about the wisdom and compassion that children often display, creating a global conversation about the importance of recognizing and nurturing empathy in young people. Mental health advocates had also highlighted the gesture as an example of how family support could provide crucial comfort during times of stress and uncertainty. Educational experts had noted Charlotte's action as an excellent example of emotional intelligence in practice, using it to illustrate the importance of teaching children to recognize emotional cues and respond appropriately to others' needs. The princess's ability to read her mother's state of mind and provide exactly the right kind of support at the perfect moment had become a case study in child development programs and parenting resources around the world. Charitable organizations focused on family support and children's welfare had also drawn inspiration from Charlotte's gesture, incorporating the story into their advocacy efforts and fundraising campaigns. The image had become a symbol of the positive impact that strong family relationships could have on individual resilience and community well-being, reinforcing messages about the importance of investing in programs that supported healthy family dynamics. As Catherine gradually increased her public engagements following her return at Trooping the Color, she carried with her not only the memory of Charlotte's support, but also a renewed understanding of the genuine affection and concern that the British public held for her and her family. The warm reception she received at subsequent events clearly reflected the positive impact of that moment of authentic family connection, demonstrating how vulnerability and humanity could actually strengthen rather than weaken public relationships. The Princess of Wales had discovered that accepting support gracefully was not a sign of weakness, but rather an acknowledgement of the interdependence that characterized all healthy relationships. This realization had implications for her charitable work as well, as she began to emphasize the importance of community support and mutual care in her advocacy efforts. Charlotte's example had reminded her that even those in positions of strength and leadership sometimes needed the support of others, and that accepting such support could actually enhance their ability to help others. Charlotte's gesture had also influenced the family's approach to their children's education and character development, reinforcing their commitment to raising young people who would be equipped not just with knowledge and skills, but with the emotional intelligence and compassion necessary to make positive contributions to the world around them. The princess had demonstrated that she already possessed these qualities in abundance, but her parents were determined to continue nurturing and developing them throughout her formative years. The enduring impact of that single moment of tenderness between mother and daughter had exceeded anything the family could have anticipated. What had begun as a spontaneous expression of love and support had evolved into a powerful symbol of the values that define not only the Wales family, but the best aspirations of the institution they represented. Princess Charlotte's tender gesture had indeed stolen hearts around the world, but more importantly, it had provided a lasting reminder of the transformative power of compassion, empathy, and unconditional love in action.